I've been dealing with troublesome neighbors for 3 years, and I want to share my experience both for its drama and to ask, what would you do differently in my shoes? For context, an elderly man lives next door. His wife passed away before I moved in. Now, some younger folks from a rough part of town, unrelated to him, live with him rent-free. I'm unsure how they connected. Despite the shady characters in his home, the old man himself is my biggest headache. I wish I could share photos, but I'll describe it instead. My house sits farther back from the street than his, and I can see his backyard from my front porch. The old man likes to drive through his yard to his front door to unload groceries, avoiding a longer walk. I get that. But the issue is, he drives down my driveway, then cuts across my lawn to reach his house. This ruins my grass and leaves tire tracks. The first time I saw him outside, I politely asked him to stop driving on my property. He agreed but didn't follow through. I asked again, and still no change. By the third time, I was furious, so I marched to his house and banged on the door. No one answered. Frustrated, I went home, wrote a stern note, and taped it to his door, warning I'd call the police if it continued. Yet, it happened again. After the fourth incident, I went to the police, who ordered him to stop. Thankfully, he hasn't driven on my lawn since. But the saga doesn't end there. After these issues, I installed security cameras on my property. Last month, they recorded something unbelievable. The old man dumped a bulky old TV on my land. I own a large yard with woods, and he rode his lawnmower through my front yard, past my side yard, into my backyard, and left the TV just inside my woods, barely hidden. Instead of leaving it curbside for free recycling, he chose my property. The nerve. I snapped photos of the TV, downloaded the camera footage, and reported it to the police. They're charging him with littering, ordering him to remove the TV properly, and have banned him from my property. If he steps foot on my land again, he'll face criminal mischief charges. Last year, I woke up one morning to find 10 police cars, local and state, outside his house. Turns out, the younger people living with him were dealing drugs and the cops were raiding the place. Everyone except the old man was arrested. They were released from jail this month and are back in his house. I'm ready to move. It's a shame because I chose this house for its great neighborhood. Other neighbors told me things were peaceful until the old man's wife died. Now, he seems confused, possibly with dementia, and these unsavory people are exploiting him. I'm stuck living next to drug dealers and a trespasser. What a mess. Update 1. A week ago, I shared how my neighbor used to drive across my yard until the police intervened, and how he recently dumped a TV on my property, which I reported. Yesterday, my camera caught him leaving a handwritten note on my door, and I spoke with the police about the TV. First, the police update. They tried contacting my neighbor for a week by phone and visited his house multiple times to order him to remove the TV, but he dodged them. Officers patrolled our street to catch him outside, and they finally did. They told him to dispose of the TV properly, and he was furious. He claimed the woods were his property, not mine, despite a clear fence, and argued he could do whatever he wanted. The police clarified that littering is illegal regardless of whose land it is, and electronics can't be dumped in woods. They warned me to call again if the TV isn't gone in 3 to 4 days, and they'll cite him. Around noon yesterday, my camera recorded him leaving a note on my door. It demanded that by June 1st, I trim branches from a tree on my property that drop leaves and twigs into his yard, or he'd sue me civilly. He complained about cleaning up the debris. I immediately researched state and local laws and visited the police station to report the note for documentation. The officers reassured me not to worry. They know his behavior and believe he's just lashing out because I reported him. They confirmed that per state and local laws, I'm not obligated to trim branches overhanging his property, but he's allowed to cut them back to the property line himself. The tree is healthy, not dropping large branches, and poses no risk to his property. Even if it did, insurance would handle it, not me. He's clearly upset about the trouble I've caused him and is grasping at straws to retaliate. I'm a law-abiding citizen, and he has no leverage against me. The local police and government have little patience for him and his housemates, so even if he tried to sue, his credibility is negligible. I'm ignoring his threat. If he'd approached me respectfully about the tree, I might have considered helping. But after his note and threats, he gets nothing. His trespassing, dumping, and yard driving far outweigh a few leaves in his yard. Maybe when he stops causing me grief, I'll think about being neighborly. I'm stunned by his selfishness. These people are the blight of our otherwise lovely community, drug dealers in the one rundown house in our area. I chose this home for the neighborhood, but I landed next to troublemakers. I'm grateful for the police's support, but this drama won't end until they're gone or I move. I'm a quiet, single guy who keeps to himself. All I want is peace. I'm starting to look for a new home. Thanks for reading my ordeal. I hope it's been engaging. What would you have done differently? Any advice is welcome. I'll likely post another update after the first week of June. Update 2, June 3rd, 2025. This is likely my final update unless something major happens. Here's what's transpired since my last post. As expected, I didn't touch the tree. Discussions with others, including the police and my research, confirm I'm not responsible. I haven't heard from the neighbor, received more notes, or had any contact from his household. As predicted, his lawsuit threat was empty. He was angry and trying to intimidate me, but it failed. He removed the TV from my property. I don't know where it went. I never saw it curbside for pickup. He might have dumped it in his own woods, but it's off my land, so it's not my concern. I confirmed with the police that he and his housemates are permanently trespassed from my property, and his TV removal was their final allowed visit. He was informed of this. Following suggestions from others, I visited our township's Human Services office and spoke with their Aging Services Department, our equivalent of Adult Protective Services. I spent an hour detailing the situation. The old man's apparent mental and physical decline, the questionable people living with him, and their behavior. I shared camera footage of him struggling to climb my porch steps to leave the note, and another clip of him chasing a squirrel on his lawnmower into my yard, highlighting his mental state. I also showed footage from the drug raid when his housemates were arrested for dealing. I provided their names, courtesy of a police contact, and left out no detail. The staff member filed a report with their investigation team, but noted I won't receive updates unless they need more information from me. I hope this helps both me and the old man. To recap, the TV is gone, they're trespassed, the lawsuit threat was a bluff, and they haven't driven on my yard since. I'm feeling more at ease, hoping this is the end of the trouble for now. If anything else happens, I'll share it, but this is my last planned update. Thanks for the advice from my previous posts. I wouldn't have thought to contact aging services without your suggestions. Here's hoping the old man gets help and I get the tranquility I crave. Next story. My dad always opened my mail, so I decided to retaliate by opening his. Instead, I uncovered proof he was cheating, and my parents divorced after I showed my mom letters from his mistress. I'm a 24-year-old woman, and I'd rather not disclose my job, but it involves receiving confidential client letters meant only for me. I'm fresh out of college, living with my parents to pay off student loans. My work mail goes to their address since they're far from a post office, and a P.O. box is inconvenient. The problem started with my dad. Since high school, he's opened my mail. Birthday or Christmas cards with cash? He'd hand me the card saying he'd keep the money safe until I insisted he give it to me. Packages I ordered? He'd open them and sometimes use the contents. The breaking point was when he opened my acceptance letter to my dream college and called me at work to congratulate me before I could open it myself. I told my mom how uncomfortable this made me and she promised to talk to him. He'd apologize, stop for a week, then resume. I also warned him about the confidentiality of my work mail and he claimed to understand. But a few weeks ago, he handed me opened client letters while I was working and tried to discuss them. I ignored him until he left. After work, I confronted him about breaching client confidentiality. He got defensive, saying it's his house, so he'll read any mail sent there. Angry, I decided to get even by checking his mail the next week. What I found destroyed our relationship. I discovered credit card statements for jewelry and fancy restaurants, places too extravagant for him to visit alone, and he hadn't taken my mom out in ages or bought her jewelry. I also found a letter addressed to him from a woman who wrote about hiding their relationship and craving his replies. When he saw the empty mailbox, he rushed inside, pale. He found me and my mom in the kitchen reading his mail. Before an argument erupted, my mom asked me to leave. I drove to my aunt's, 45 minutes away, and explained everything. When I returned 2 days later, my dad was gone. My mom said he's staying in a hotel and she's contacting a divorce lawyer. Apparently, he'd been having an affair with a family friend, using letters to avoid a digital trail. He showed my mom his stash of letters and she photographed each one before telling him to leave. I feel guilty. I meant to be petty, but it spiraled into this chaos. I wonder if he was paranoid about his own secrets, which is why he checked my mail. I feel like I broke my mom's heart. She cries every night since it happened. Update 1. Thank you all for the support. I wrote this drunk last night and didn't expect such kindness from strangers. I'll address some questions and provide an update. Did my dad use my gift money to fund his affair? I'm unsure. When I was younger, relatives sent cards with $100, and he'd give me the full amount. As I got older, the amounts dropped to $20 to $40, and I suspect he gave me half, which could explain his lavish spending on his mistress. I plan to call relatives who sent money to confirm. The mistress sent letters disguised as bills or business mail. My mom, who doesn't handle bills, never opened them, assuming they were legitimate. The mistress also sent packages, which explains why my dad opened mine. I'd rather not think about what she sent. Update. It's been a few weeks. I've been supporting my mom as she navigates the legal process and my dad's constant pleas for forgiveness. She wavers between wanting to reconcile and despising him. I told her never to take back a cheater. She did everything for him, and his betrayal is his fault, not hers. The mistress was married, and my mom sent her husband the photographed letters and spoke with him at length. He filed for divorce, and the mistress is now furious with my dad for being careless. The mistress's ex-husband, who I'll call Henry, has been a great support for my mom during their legal battles. The mistress still begs my dad for forgiveness, which I find ironic since he's doing the same with my mom. She relied financially on Henry, and my dad's income can't support her lavish tastes. Yesterday, Henry invited my mom to lunch to get out of the house. I encouraged her to go and offered to pick her up if my dad or the mistress showed up. My dad hasn't apologized for opening my mail. Instead, he's left voicemails blaming me for the situation, then crying and begging to stay my dad. I'm ignoring him for now. I'm unsure if I'll update again, but I will if something significant happens. Thanks for the support and for reading. Update 2. It's been a year since the incident, and I have an update. A few months after my last post, my mom sat me and my younger sister, Rachel, 20F, down to discuss possibly dating Henry. We were thrilled. They've been together almost a year, and Henry treats her with far more respect than my dad ever did. My mom has transformed from a timid, quiet woman into a confident, vibrant one, and I'm overjoyed. My dad, Jerry, and his mistress, Martha, married shortly after my mom, Reagan, and Henry did. I barely spoke to Jerry except for occasional texts asking how I was or requesting money. After their marriage, both their families disowned them. They tried suing for money, but the case failed. I cut contact entirely after Jerry harassed Rachel for a month, calling, texting, and even showing up at her college until the dean had him removed. My mom got us a harassment protection order, so Jerry can only contact us for arranged meetings or medical emergencies. We haven't heard from him since. Martha, however, kept causing trouble. Jerry's money requests were because she's pregnant and demands luxury items which he struggles to afford. Martha harassed Rachel and even showed up at our house, demanding to speak to Henry, claiming he left her, a poor pregnant woman, with nothing. Henry firmly told her she had no right to call him cruel after cheating on him while he provided her with a lavish lifestyle. He closed the door and Martha threw a tantrum, even faking her water breaking with a water bottle. Police took her to the hospital, and our doorbell camera footage cleared everything up. Thank you for supporting my story. I hope none of you face a mess like this.